What's up, everybody? My name is Jericholic8704, here to give you another installment of Raw is Jericholic8704. Here we have Raw, July 28th, 2003, from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Before I dive in, let me just say that the theme of this show was just matches that would never seem to fucking end. God, this was one of the worst Raws I've ever seen. Like, in all honesty, like, this Raw was fucking terrible. And it wasn't like there was anything that was just so bad that like I just couldn't watch anymore. It was just so painfully dull that I was falling asleep. I couldn't stand to watch it. I had to entertain myself in other ways, but dive right in. All right, so we get a recap of Kane shenanigans. You know, every single Raw for the next couple months is going to start with a recap of Kane shenanigans. Although we did see a recap of Linda McMahon giving Bischoff and Stone Cold the night off, and they built up Stone Cold's decision on whether or not he's going to remain the co-GM of Raw or whatever. So we had an opening segment. It was Vince. Vince says he's here for one reason, that is to avenge what Kane did to Linda. He's not here to avenge Linda because he's a good husband. Everyone should know better than that. That was a funny line. But it's because he's a man and Kane is an animal, and Vince guarantees that all hell will break loose. Then we had a tag team match, Booker T and Scott Steiner versus Christian and Test. Like, Test wasn't even all that good on this show. That's how you know this show sucked ass. When Test can't even save it, you know it's terrible. So Booker and Test start off. Christian tries to cheap shot Booker while he's on the apron, but he gets hit in the face for his troubles, and then Test capitalizes on the distraction from Christian. Booker tags Steiner, and Test instantly pops out and tags Christian. Steiner presses Christian. He does a little press slam thing, you know, fun stuff. Then Christian attacks him from behind. That doesn't make sense. Test jumps him from behind. Test is then tagged and beats up Steiner, and Test mocks Steiner's push-ups. You know, I usually like it when Test does the jumping jacks as a way to mock Steiner's taunts, but, you know, it wasn't all that good this time. He just did push-ups towards Stacy Keibler. So eventually it all breaks down, and Test and Booker fall out of the ring, and then Steiner belly-to-bellied Christian outside the ring, and Christian took a hard fall. He got belly to bellied, he went over the ropes, and then his like lower back bounced off the apron, which had to have felt horrendous. Like, I really cannot imagine taking a bump on the apron. That must be terrible. So Test and Christian double flapjack Steiner onto the stairs for more heat. That's the problem. Like, I thought that when it started breaking down, I thought, okay, here comes the end of the match when everything gets out of control, and then everyone starts hitting a big move, and then, oh yeah, and then you get 1, 2, 3, and someone wins. But no, Test and Christian double flapjack Steiner onto the stairs. They go to a commercial break and they come back, and like Christian has a headlock on Scott Steiner. I'm like, God damn, are you like restarting this entire match? It wasn't even all that good to begin with, but now you want to like completely do it over and start from scratch. So eventually Steiner fights his way out. He gets the hot tag to Booker T. Booker T goes crazy. I did like the finishing sequence of this. Booker T tried to hit an unprettier on, Christian tried to hit an unprettier on Booker T. Test went for a big boot. Booker T ducked, he hit Christian, and then Steiner threw Test out of the ring, and then Booker T eventually hit the scissors kick on Christian for the win. I'll give it a star. It was way, way, way too long, longer than it needed to be. Wasn't even all that exciting to begin with. I've seen these four guys face each other so many times in the past couple weeks. I mean, I guess this is a problem that I have with the brand extension in general. And I thought about it more as the show went on. Two like glaring problems with the brand extension. One is like, yes, it gives more guys an opportunity, to be in programs and to be on the roster and, to be active members of the Raw roster and, not just be a jabroni every single day, but like, you just kind of get tired of watching the same guys over and over and over again. And I mean, I know when they first did the brand split in 2002, like the rosters were stacked. You had Rock and Hogan and Austin and Angle and Taker and Triple H and Jericho and Benoit and all these guys. I'm just starting to name everyone. But like now, like what do you like? I'm not saying they don't have any stars, but it's just you have Triple H on top constantly. You have the same guys in the mid-card feud, and I mean, sure, you got to have programs and you got to have people have rivalries, but like, damn, like you really can't get other people in these matches. I just feel like I've seen Booker T. I never want to see Booker T and Christian in the same match again. I never want to. And it's not like there's anything wrong with it. I just seen it so many times. And furthermore, like when you have a roster that's divided in half. And in 2016, a roster that's divided in 3/4 to Raw, a quarter to SmackDown, because let's be real, that's how that turned out. I mean, like, I almost feel bad for people that go because it's like you can't see everyone. And I mean, I get that there's some sort of mystique to that, like, oh, that's why you'd want to go to a Raw and a SmackDown show to see all the stars. But like, I don't know, I feel like if I pay my hard-earned money, especially now that I've gotten older to the point where I actually have to start buying my own wrestling tickets. It wasn't like, when I was a kid, my dad would pay for them or something. If I want to spend my money, like, I want to see everyone. And I mean, I understand for a house show, like, they're going to divide their rosters so they can cover more ground. And I'm okay with that because that's a house show. It's only 2 hours long or whatever. And it's not, it's not advertised as a full-fledged TV event. But if I'm going to Raw and it's going to be 3 fucking hours, I want to see everyone. So I guess maybe that's just me. That's like not my cup of tea, like, not being able to see every single wrestler. And I know not every wrestler can be on every single show, but, like, let's just say my favorite wrestler is AJ Styles. And it's like, but, SmackDown, I like Raw better than SmackDown because Raw is just a better show, but I can't see AJ Styles. Like, that just kind of sucks to me. But, whatever. I mean, I guess it's just what you have to do nowadays. I really don't know how long this brand split's going to last in 2016. I think, like, maybe I'm kind of hoping, like, maybe the brand split just kind of like a story for the Shane Stephanie rivalry. We can have a brand split for a year and a half, because let's be real, after a year of the brand split, it started getting old really quickly. And, like, by 2004, 2005, it was still pretty good. But by like 06, 07, I was about sick of it. And then 08 and 09, they just pissed all over, the brand extension. Like, like, everything just was so lopsided. Nothing felt even anymore. And just overall, I wasn't pleased with it. I feel like a brand split is fun for a hot minute, but the more and more it drags on, the more and more you start to see its flaws. And there are positives to a brand extension, don't get me wrong. But it's just like, looking back at this 2003 Raw, I just think, damn, like, I really feel like if you had more stars on this show, things could just be better. And it's just like, I don't know, like, the WWE's thought process is the reason, like, WWE, the reason why SmackDown wasn't doing so well is because it's not because, there wasn't anything exclusive to SmackDown. Is you gave your audience zero reason to watch SmackDown, because anything important that happened on SmackDown, they showed on Raw. And any sort of angle that happened on SmackDown, they would resolve it on Raw. And you'd get the, like, the intel on what previously happened within this program, so you didn't have to watch SmackDown. And furthermore, anything that happens on Raw, it will just be in the SmackDown main event. Like, if there's a fuck finish on a match on Raw, you're going to watch it on SmackDown. But who cares if it's just between two no names, you know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm not burying the roster by saying people are no names on that show. I'm just saying, like, if the storyline doesn't have any big implications, why would you want to see the match again? Like, that you gave your audience no reason to watch SmackDown. If you gave your audience a reason, like, I would not mind it at all if they made, like, cruiserweights exclusive to SmackDown. Not necessarily a brand split, but made a cruiserweight division on SmackDown. And you have some stars that are exclusive to SmackDown. I think that would have been fine. You didn't need to go full on brand split, but I'm getting horrendously off topic. We're talking about Raw here. So anyway, after the match, it was announced that they were going to reveal the SummerSlam main event, and clips were shown of the SummerSlam press conference, and Bischoff announces that the main event will be Triple H versus Goldberg. Now, I do not remember this ever being the main event. I mean, I was watching Raw at this point, but again, I was a little kid. I was, like, really just starting to watch wrestling. I was only like a couple months in watching wrestling religiously. I do not remember Goldberg and Triple H ever being the advertised main event, but I guess it was. I mean, they didn't edit it out or anything. It was the main event for everyone to see. I guess in the next couple weeks I'll find out how it became the Elimination Chamber match, but I honestly never remember Triple H versus Goldberg as the advertised main event, but whatever, I'm not complaining. Goldberg versus Steven Richards. Lillian does not even finish her intro when Goldberg's coming to the ring. What was great about this was Steven Richards didn't even get a jobber entrance. Like, like, they'll introduce the guy coming out of the ring, and then when they're done, they'll be like, and from blah, 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 weighing 200-something pounds, here's, Bob Jones or whatever. He didn't even get that. Like, Goldberg slid into the ring, and Steven Richards, there wasn't even, like, any implication that he was in the ring, at least not from what I saw. I mean, I might have missed it, but to me, like, I think Steven Richards was off camera the entire time, and as soon as Goldberg got in the ring, you just saw Steven Richards coming out of nowhere to attack Goldberg. So anyway, nothing is going on in this match. Goldberg literally kills him, and then Triple H comes out. Triple H says he's impressed by Goldberg's win over Stevie Richards, which I thought was kind of funny considering his name is supposed to be Steven Richards, but whatever. Triple H says Steven Richards is a hell of a competitor, but he's not the world heavyweight champion. Triple H says he doesn't know what Goldberg's getting himself into, and Goldberg says, why wait till SummerSlam? And he calls HHH out on the spot. Triple H says that it's Goldberg's reputation that will make him a lot of money during the SummerSlam main event. He's not going to ruin Goldberg's reputation by getting in the ring with him right now. Goldberg says, what about Flair? And then Flair, I don't know why Flair is provoked by this, I don't want to say verbal assault, by this, his name being called by Goldberg. Flair throws off his jacket. He starts flailing around. It was I usually like it when Flair goes crazy, but here I was just okay, Flair, what the fuck are you doing? This really wasn't even anything. There was no reason to get upset. I don't know. Maybe I was just being stupid. Maybe I was already sour on this Raw from the get-go. So I was really tired already, but, I was really, Flair, calm down. So Bischoff interrupts everything. He says it's his job and he will not give away Flair versus Goldberg in one day. They will face next week on Raw. Goldberg says Flair is next, and then Flair once again freaks out. Then we had, in the most I don't fucking care match of all time, Val Venis versus Rico. So, they come out, they do their deals. Val Venis is in his towel, Rico's in his makeup and whatever. They go for a lockup, Rico ducks, and then he spanks Val Venis. They do some shit, and Venis gets distracted by Jackie, so Rico can get the heat. They both hit a double clothesline, which led to a potential countout. That's what I loved about this match. The ref's counting, and he's at 8, and they're both still down, and no one cared. No one was begging for Venis and Rico to get back to their feet so the match could continue. Everyone was just fucking end this match. Val Venis starts making a comeback. He goes for the money shot. Jackie tries to distract him. Rico goes to the top, but then Val Venis shakes him off and he falls down. Venis hits the money shot on Rico for the win. I'm going to give that a dud because it sucked. We had a backstage segment. Bischoff starts yelling at everyone to get into position since Kane is going to arrive in his, little sheriff van in moments. They open the door and Kane's van pulls up, and Bischoff says no one is allowed to let Kane out until Bischoff says so. Then we had the highlight of the show, how I propose the highlight reel with special guest Shawn Micahels and Randy Orton. Jericho makes a Rocky Mountain High reference, and then he says he's happy because he made history by making HBK tap out. Now, I don't remember if Shawn Michaels ever tapped out, but when I thought about Shawn Michaels' big pay-per-view matches up to 2003, I really can't remember him tapping out. I mean, I can remember him tapping out now. He tapped out at WrestleMania 21, WrestleMania 23, and other matches, but of course those were after 2003, so those don't count. But I was thinking about it, I'm I really can't remember Shawn Michaels tapping out. I'm sure he did. I understand that he probably did. I'm off the top of my head, I really can't remember unless I'm forgetting of a really big match, which is very likely. Anyway, Jericho introduces Orton. Orton gives Jericho an Evolution t-shirt as a gift. Jericho says he knows about being paid because he's the king of bling bling. Yeah, the t-shirt was the paid, made, and laid shirt, for those of you wondering. Jericho asks why Orton came down and hit his move on HBK, and Orton calls the finisher the RKO. I guess this is when he officially announced it, even though they had been calling it the RKO on commentary a couple times. Jericho appreciates the name, but he said, I don't appreciate you coming down for interference when I had Shawn Michaels right in my hands where I wanted him. Orton says it's simple. He screwed HBK and he destroyed Foley. They're both legends. He says he's making a name for himself, and that name is the Legend Killer, and he's going to continue being a Legend Killer by RKOing HBK all over the place. He says HBK is the next legend he will kill. Jericho says he's a lady killer as well because Orton is one sexy beast. Jericho then introduces Shawn Michaels, and HBK says him and Jericho might be even, but everyone knows he could not get the job done by himself. And then Shawn Michaels, in the best part of this Raw, told Randy Orton, so you're going to be the one that's going to kill the legend of HBK. If I had a nickel for every stiff to walk into this business and say he was going to do that to me, I would be a millionaire. And then the best part of this was Shawn Michaels going, wait, I am a millionaire, and it's because of people like you. And I thought that was a great line. Shawn Michaels says he will kill Orton's career before it even gets started, and then he challenges Jericho to a match, and Jericho says, you're pathetic, HBK, and then Orton said, you want to fight, and then they both kind of jumped him, and then the crowd started, this is a great moment, they were beating up HBK, and then the crowd started to cheer. So I heard the crowd cheering, I'm okay, someone must be coming to make the save, and the camera did not pan over to Kevin Nash, who was coming down the ramp. I figured it was Kevin Nash, and the reason I thought that was, after there was the big initial cheer that someone was coming out, there was a moment where the cheers died down because the person making the save, who was still unknown by the viewers at home because the camera was still focused on the ring, he had not made it to the ring in time. And I was like, this has to be Kevin Nash, because there's no way Kevin Nash would run down to the ring. Kevin Nash is definitely making a brisk walk down to the ring. He's not going to run to save his friend. So Nash eventually steps up and steps over the ropes, and he beats the shit out of Jericho and Orton. And then he challenges Jericho to a match. So we got Kevin Nash versus Chris Jericho. Nash starts beating on Jericho, and then Jericho spits in his face, and Nash gets all pissed. Nash catches Jericho and slams him, and Jericho hits a big chop block for the heat. Nash makes a small comeback, but Jericho continues to work over the leg, and then Nash hits a big boot, and the straps come off, and he gets Y2J in position for the powerbomb, and then Jericho drops to his knees and gives him a low blow for a DQ finish. What a fucking lame finish this was. I'll give it half a star. Stupid. Jericho tries to hook on the walls after, I don't even understand. What followed is one of the worst post-match segments I've ever seen in my life. Jericho tries to hook on the walls for some reason, even after he had gotten out of this match. I mean, I guess just to add insult to injury, or I should say injury to insult. But then Nash shakes him off, and then Jericho tries for a chair. After he removes a turnbuckle pad, and then Jericho tries to go for a chair, and he brings it in, and then Nash kicks it in his face, and Jericho starts bleeding, and then Nash just beats him up, and usually when a babyface beats up a heel, especially in a violent manner like this, it's so exciting because he's just going ham, but Nash looked so uninspired. He just would do moves to Jericho to get, and no reaction. Because, the moves were, they didn't even have any, high drama to them. It was Jericho, bloody, just taking these bumps. And, they were both moving at the speed of molasses. They weren't even going fast. And it's not like you have to do, spots at 1,000,000 miles a second. But goddamn, pick up the pace. They would just, Nash was just moving so slowly. And, Jericho would, he did, a snake eyes. He did 2 snake eyes onto the, turnbuckle, and Jericho really didn't even take that dramatic of a bump. He just kind of hit his head and then just slowly fell back. It was so uninspired. It was the worst brawl I've ever seen in my life. I can't even call this a brawl. It was a beatdown because Jericho got 0 offense in. Then eventually Kevin Nash lifted the stairs above his head. There was a slight cheer. It wasn't even a yeah. It was a ah. And then Jericho was ah, fuck this, and he just jumped over the wall, and that was the end of that. So that was pretty dumb. So then we had a backstage segment with Hurricane and Rosie. Rosie says someone almost called him a big piece of shit in the airport because he's a superhero in training. Hurricane says he is his protege. Then Rosie asks if he'll ever get superpowers, and Hurricane says one day he'll have hurrah powers, and he leaps off to go fight crime. And then when Rosie's alone in the dressing room, he tries to fly, but he can't. Then we had a backstage segment with Kane's van. This is so funny. The officers open the van to reveal Kane behind some sort of steel grate, he's even, he's caged in behind this little steel wall or whatever. And then Bischoff's what the fuck are you guys doing? And the officer's we just wanted to give him some air. And then Bischoff says, I don't give a fuck. Then we had another match that went insanely long, longer than it needed to. La Resistance versus Garrison, Cade, and Mark Jindrack. So Lillian says the following tag team championship is scheduled for one fall, which I thought was pretty funny. Then the Dudleys are on commentary. They're doing their stuff. Dudleys say whoever wins will get a match with them. The two have the most boring tag team match in existence. It wasn't even the basic tag team match formula, because the basic tag team match formula will always get you at least a decent match, but this was just so boring. I mean, Garrison, Cade, and Mark Jindrack are just greener than whatever. What's green nowadays? Grass. They're greener than grass. I'm sorry, guys. So La Resistance wants to use the flag while the ref is distracted with one. I think it was Garrison Cade. He was distracted with him, and the Dudleys see that they're bringing in the flag. So the Dudleys, they run down to the ring. They don't get in there, but they just kind of yell from the ramp, and then the teams stare at each other. And even though they're just staring at each other and there's no physical altercation of any kind, 4 refs had to come down and separate the two for staring at each other. So then Mark Jindrack gets the hot tag and goes on the comeback, which no one cared about. They had a cool spot where Garrison Cade kind of set up one of the guys in La Resistance for a heart attack, and instead of doing the running clothesline, Mark Jindrack just did a big leaping drop kick, which looked pretty cool. So for that reason, I'll give this match a quarter of a star. Other than that, this match fucking sucked. Love Resistance trips up Jindrack and they hit him with their double team move, which never got a name, for the win. The Dudleys invade after the ring and they beat the shit out of La Resistance for a bit, and then Dupree sneaks back in with the flag and hits both of them with the flag, and then Devon for, I believe, it was 2 weeks ago, but the second time in the history of watching these Raw reviews, he took this flag right to the face and it delivered one hell of a smack, so feel bad for him. Then we had a backstage segment with Bischoff. Bischoff says it's okay to release Kane, and then Kane walks out of the truck still in his shackles. So I thought, okay, so the main event is next with Kane. No, we had a women's championship match out of the fucking blue. Gail Kim versus Molly Holly. Now, maybe this match was announced last week and I just don't remember, but I'm going to trust my gut instinct in saying this wasn't announced at all. So Gail Kim tries to walk the ropes, but she gets shoved off to the outside for the heat. Molly hits Gail with like a back stretch and all that. Gail Kim goes for a roll-up, but Molly kicks out, and then Gail hits a Hurricane Rana. Gail Kim tries a Frankensteiner, but she gets pushed off, and then Molly hits a Molly go-round for the win. A star and a quarter, who gives a fuck? And I feel bad for saying that because this is the Women's Championship, and there was a title change. And what was so great about this, and it just goes to show how much they value the Women's Championship, Molly Holly wins. She gets maybe a 15-second celebration before it is instantly cut to Vince McMahon walking in the backstage area on his way to the ring, just to show, okay, who cares about the Women's Championship and the title change that just occurred? Vince McMahon is almost to the ring. So then we had a main event promo. Vince, Kane, and Stone Cold. Vince tells Kane to come out, and then Kane eventually does come out. Vince said it would be easy to beat the hell out of Kane with all these shackles on, and then Vince tells the cops to take off the shackles, and then he tells the officers to get lost. Vince asks Kane who the hell he thinks he is. He calls him a French fried freak. Thought that was a good line. Vince then says, you're a monster, a real-life remorseless monster. Vince says he could have a lot of power if he had Kane by his side, and that he would forgive Kane for almost killing his wife if he would be his partner in crime. Austin comes out, and Austin says he accepts Linda's rules, and he said he is here to be physically provoked. He starts to make fun of Kane, calls him stupid, calls him a son of a bitch, tries to get him to, beat the shit out of him so he can kill him. Kane looks angry, and then he just says, nah, not tonight. And then all of a sudden, Shane McMahon's music hits. He comes out, and the big, bad monster, Shane McMahon, is able to fling Kane out of the ring and beat the shit out of him. And then Kane, just decides, fuck this, and he starts to walk away. And then Vince tries to separate Shane and Kane, which he eventually does. And then Shane looks at Vince and punches him right in the face and goes to get a chair. And he whacks Kane a couple of times, and then he throws Kane off of the stairs. Off the stage. Kane hits a bunch of, tables and shit. And then that was it. He sat up at the end, and that was the end of Raw. There really wasn't any drama to it. They were just like, oh my god, he sat up. And then literally the WWE logo flashed on the screen to signify the end of the show. So that was Raw. That was by far one of the worst Raws I've ever seen in my entire life. Nothing exciting happened. All the matches went way too long. The main event promo was just really lackluster. And we're starting the whole Shane McMahon-Kane feud. Kane, the big bad monster who burned people alive, is going to wrestle Shane fucking McMahon. Holy shit. Well, I'm really not excited for next week, but I will see all of you later.